This is a territory of less than 22,000 square kilometers, yet it has been the epicenter of more wars, treaties, and headlines than anywhere else on Earth. Three of humanity's greatest religions claim it as their absolute spiritual origin. It has been conquered, destroyed, and rebuilt more times than historians can honestly count. We are talking about Israel, but its definitive story does not begin in 1948. It begins millennia ago, in a coveted land known historically as Palestine, Eretz Israel, and Philistine. 4,000 years ago, a man named Abraham left Ur for Canaan. The Hebrews, who would later become the Jewish people, traced their ancient lineage through his descendants. According to tradition, Moses led them out of Egyptian slavery and back to the Promised Land. By 1000 BCE, King David forged a unified Israelite kingdom and established Jerusalem as its capital. His son Solomon constructed the first temple, cementing the spiritual and political core of the Jewish nation. But great empires never ignore strategic geography. The Assyrians ruthlessly crushed the northern kingdom in 722 BCE. The Babylonians annihilated the southern kingdom in 586 BCE, destroying the temple and exiling the elite. The Persians eventually conquered Babylon and allowed the Jews to return and build the Second Temple. Centuries later, the Greeks attempted forced assimilation, triggering the fierce Maccabean revolt. Then came the relentless, inevitable march of Rome. In 70 CE, the Romans crushed a massive Jewish rebellion and burned the Second Temple to the ground. Today, the Western Wall is all that remains of that sacred complex. Decades later, Emperor Hadrian crushed another uprising, renamed the region Syria Palestina, and exiled the Jews. This catastrophic defeat triggered the Great Diaspora, scattering the Jewish people across the globe for 18 centuries. The land itself continuously changed hands through a violent succession of empires. Romans, Byzantines, Arab Muslims, European Crusaders, Mamluks, and Ottoman Turks all claimed sovereignty. Throughout this time, the territory was never empty, inhabited by a resilient mix of Arab Muslims, Arab Christians, and remaining Jews. In the 19th century, virulent European anti-Semitism exploded into deadly, organized pogroms. Journalist Theodor Herzl realized the only survival strategy was a sovereign Jewish state, giving birth to political Zionism. Desperate Jewish immigrants began returning to an Ottoman-controlled Palestine. World War I shattered the Ottoman Empire, handing control of the region to the British. In 1917, the British issued the Balfour Declaration, officially supporting a Jewish national home in Palestine. However, they had already promised independent states to the Arabs in exchange for military support. Two mutually exclusive promises were forged over one identical piece of land. During the 1930s, the terrifying rise of Nazi Germany drove a desperate wave of Jewish refugees to Palestine. The Arab population, fearing demographic erasure, launched a massive 3-year armed revolt. Then came the unprecedented, systematic horror of the Holocaust. 6 million European Jews were annihilated, making the international pressure for a Jewish state irresistible. In 1947, an exhausted Britain handed the violently fractured territory to the newly formed United Nations. The UN proposed partitioning the land into 2 distinct states. Jewish leaders accepted the partition, while Arab leaders completely rejected it. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion boldly proclaimed the independent state of Israel. The very next day, 5 surrounding Arab armies invaded the newborn nation. Israel not only survived the onslaught, but expanded its borders significantly. For Israelis, it was the glorious War of Independence. For Palestinians, it was the Nakba, the catastrophic mass displacement of 700,000 people. The following decades were defined by continuous high-stakes warfare. In 1967, the Six-Day War allowed Israel to preemptively strike and capture the Sinai, Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. In 1973, a devastating surprise attack by Egypt and Syria pushed Israel to the brink before a fierce military recovery. Peace seemed briefly possible when Egypt signed the groundbreaking Camp David Accords in 1979. In 1993, the Oslo Accords brought Israeli and Palestinian leaders together, offering a fleeting glimpse of hope. But assassinations, terror attacks, and two incredibly bloody intifadas shattered that fragile trust. In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza. By 2007, the Islamist militant group Hamas seized violent control of the Gaza Strip. A rigid blockade and perpetual rocket fire defined the region's grim reality for the next 15 years. Then came October 7, 2023. Hamas launched the deadliest attack on Jewish civilians since the Holocaust, killing hundreds and taking hostages. The ensuing Israeli military response in Gaza was devastating, creating a massive, globally polarizing humanitarian crisis. There is no comfortable, simple narrative to be found here. One people fled centuries of global persecution and genocide to reclaim their historic ancestral homeland. Another people suffered decades of displacement and occupation on their equally legitimate ancestral land. Both of these harsh realities are absolute historical truths. The world's inability to accept this dual tragedy is exactly why the conflict burns relentlessly a century later. History dictates that lasting peace in this region is nearly impossible, but history also proves that the impossible occasionally happens.